Hello, and welcome to the live stream where I'm learning JavaScript. Maybe you're learning JavaScript. If you are not, great. I'd like the help. And if you are, great. We can learn together. So our task today. Well, first let's review what we did yesterday. So yesterday we basically figured out what you see here.
I'm learning
so
JavaScript.
Maybe you're learning JavaScript. An HTML file, and it has
not,
script block.
Great.
Script block is JavaScript.
I'd
like the help. And if you are,
but I do understand
great.
what it does that we walked through.
So
Here over
our
on
task today.
first
let's
let's
review what
we
we
have
have. So yesterday we basically
output.
out. So what you see
I'm
here.
learning
So
JavaScript.
maybe you're learning JavaScript. HTML file, and it has
not,
script block.
Great.
Maybe I'm not JavaScript.
Don't look at my lights.
Like the help. And if you are,
but I do
may not
understand
have
what it
anything.
does that we walked through.
So
here
what
our
is
script
task
bit
today?
does
So yesterday we
is that
basically
there
out.
is
So what you see
paragraph
here
here
is
is
JavaScript
demo, and originally the output here was overwrote the text here.
But I do
And
understand what it does.
instead of
So
doing
so
that,
what
what
is
is
on
on
Swift
Swift
output to just write it to the document?
and
We also
is
learned
that
that
the
the
document
document
is, if you think about any sort of web page here was a tree structure using DOM. And object model, which was what that output to just write it to the document.
We also learned that
Did I remember?
I sure did.
If you think
Good
about
job, Rachel.
the document object model was a tree structure using DOM. And
Sorry, if you can hear like Jewish sounds in the background. I gave my dog something nice to chew on. We also learned that did I remember?
I sure did.
So if you think of this as
document object model
and I mean it's going to the side, but it's got a like branching thing. It's just like sorry, if you can hear like Jewish sounds in the background. I gave my dog something nice to chew on. We also learned that did I remember?
I sure did.
So that'd do that. All right, thank you. I did not realize it was picking up my desktop audio. That should fix it. My apologies. Sorry, and thank you for the information. Oh, hey, Peter. I would have just been happily going on along without noticing anything, probably. Okay, so if you think of a web page as a tree structure, the document is the very rootmost node, right? So in order to change anything in that web page, it's going to be related to the document. And Chow also noticed it. Okay. Give it a sec. Should catch up soon. Hello, Alejandro. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. Also, I happen to know that Peter is a very good JavaScript engineer. We work together actually at Kaggle. So if he comes in with helpful advice, I will be very grateful. So that's where the document in here comes from, and we're just like writing out exactly where we are. Value of z is blah blah blah, and z comes from this arithmetic that's done up here. All the variables are declared. All the lines have semicolons at the end of it. Very Java-y. So, I mean, it's JavaScript. That's not a surprise. Oh wait, and where'd you come from? What's this bar here? Is this gonna make it different sizes? Is it for scrolling? No. All right. I have no idea where the bar is from or where it came from. Double clicking it seems to resize the window. This one doesn't have it. I think this might just be like a JavaScript IDE thing. Yeah. So this is what we did last time, and we figured out like how to get this showing up and working. Sorry. Nothing should be making noise, but I heard a notification noise. Don't know where that came from. Anyway, that's what we did last time. And if we look at our learning plan, also all of this is on my GitHub, which is linked there. So if you want to follow along, obviously it will not be updated in real time. What I want to do this time is figure out how to get input from a user and then print it back out. And also, and this is what I announced on Twitter, do some string manipulation, all lowercase, question mark, maybe the thing that we want to do. I think that's a good, like, first step. Oh. I already had that in my plan. I just can't read. That's okay. And then look up things we run across. And somebody yesterday said WSM to me. And if you use a keyboard to play games with motion controls, often that's WASD. And at first that's what I thought that said, and it's not. So something to look up. Something about assembly? Maybe. We'll find out. But I'll do that when I start to run out of brain. So let's kick off by trying to figure out how to get the user to input text. I am hoping I can do this in plain JavaScript and I don't have to use a fancy UI element for it, because that means we're going to have to commit to using a specific UI library, probably. I don't know, I'm guessing, and I don't really want to do that. I really would prefer, just very default. Where is that coming from? Sorry, I'm getting notification sounds. I genuinely do not know where it could possibly be coming from. Mysterious. All right, so what were we doing? I want to figure out how to get text input, so I'm gonna Google how to do that. Get text input from user, plain JavaScript. Input output in plain JavaScript. Now that sounds like exactly what I'm looking for. All right, let's pop this out. I mentioned that I do like Firefox, but I find it really difficult to pull tabs out. All right, so we have here a little bit of an example. So we have just an HTML file. It's got the head, hello world, in the body. First name, input ID, first name, last name, input ID, last name, button, say hi. So I'm guessing this input object is some sort of text entry, some sort of input entry that somebody can use. Hi, Nimit, welcome. And then down here in this sort of script function, we're declaring 3 variables. So this one called fname, we're going to look in the document, we're going to find the element named first name, this one, and then we're going to get the value from that, and then we're going to get from within the document, which again is the whole HTML thing, we're going to get the element by ID. The ID is last name. Yeah, you're very cute. Do you want to be my lap bud? I can try and code around you. Hop up. No. Okay. He's just got lots of feelings. Sorry if you can hear him. Yeah, I know, bud. I know. You're very cute. And then there's a third variable, HTML. I feel like I wouldn't call a variable HTML, but maybe this is like a set convention, because this is like this string I would guess is reserved as a name. But maybe it's not. I don't know what the namespace looks like. Oh no, you're itchy. One sec. Come on, bud. Up we get. Will you stop whining if you're in my lap, maybe? Yeah, you're very cute. This is Benson. Okay, and then we've got this variable HTML. Maybe this is a conventional name that I don't know about. and it's a text string, and it's got hello, and then these tags should make this bold, and then the last name, and then we're all right. So this inner HTML method we saw yesterday, and it replaces whatever is in this element called result. And right now, this is just null. And that will be replaced with this HTML variable that's been declared here. And then we have this last thing that's still in the script, but it's outside of this function. Okay, so this is all a function. This is a single function. And this function is run down here. So document get element ID say. Where does say? Okay, so we have a button, and the button is called say, and on the button is the text say hi. So when that button is clicked, and I'm guessing that the events that can be attached to a specific element, like, so some of these things I'm guessing are just like defined in JavaScript, and like you know them as you learn them as you keep using JavaScript, or like you look in the manual, the place where all the JavaScript things are written down, the JavaScript docs. Is there like a single central place for JavaScript docs? Sorry, he really wants me to have my arm in a place where he can just put his head on it. Okay, so it looks like there are several JavaScript docs. I have no idea what the canonical one is. So there's one from Mozilla, there's one from devdocs.io, and there's one from Microsoft, and those are my top results. I'm just looking at another tab here. Pop that in there. Oop, there we go. So these are tutorials, references, JavaScript reference documentation. This part of the JavaScript section on MDM serves as a repository of facts about the JavaScript language. Okay, so read more about this reference. Yeah. The entire language is described here in detail. As you write JavaScript code, you will refer to these pages often, just the title JavaScript reference. If you are learning JavaScript or need help understanding some of its capabilities or features, check out the JavaScript guide. The JavaScript language is intended to be used within some larger environment, be it browser, server-side scripts, or similar. Okay, so this is a documentation of the core language features. I'm getting the sense there isn't a single canonical place for it, like there is with Python. So that's interesting. And a thing that I've learned. So let me add that to my learnings. Yeah, I'll link to that. Canonical reference for JavaScript. Looks like there are a few, but the Mozilla one says it's a complete reference. The Mozilla one, there we go. All right, fascinating. Okay, so yeah, there, unlike Python, doesn't seem to be like a single central place that everybody looks for their JavaScript stuff. I'm guessing that there tends to be more centralized documentation for specific frameworks and not so much the language. Or maybe there's like a printed book that everyone has that I just don't have. Like back in the day, before my time, but in my mom's time, there was a standard where like things would just be written down in books that were different colors, and you'd look up like the specific book that had the color that you needed. So maybe that's what people do. Fascinating. Yeah, you're very cute, bud. I don't know if you can see him over here. He doesn't know about looking in the camera. So let's work with this. So this is what it looks like. You have text and then an input box, text and then an input box, and then this hi button. When you click that button, it will run this function that will fetch things from other places in the HTML document, create various create various variables using that information and transformations, and then it will set another piece of the HTML document to be one of those variables instead of what it originally was, which is empty. And this is just a horizontal rule. Okay, so let's try this. And then I'm gonna just modify the heck out of this, but I want to see if it works, basically. All right. So we've got a horizontal rule here. So if I enter some text here and enter some text here, it should be printed out, and this first one should be bolded, and it should be in that text that is defined here. Yes, which is what happens. Fabulous. So if I want to change it, so first of all, I'm just going to change everything about it. So input text here. So this is what's going to be shown to the user. I don't need a last name one. So I'm going to call this text input. Return results. Return. And result I'm going to keep there. I can get rid of this entirely. Actually, I can get rid of So what I'm wondering is, I'm guessing this is one of those things you're not supposed to do, but what if instead of declaring a value, I just set the output to be, what did I call this? Text input. I just set the output to be, can I close you? I'll get there. So I just put the output to be whatever is in the input. And that should repeat input. So I'm changing this name here, so I need to change it here. I still want to click a button. This element ID no longer says say, now it says return. So we've changed the name of that element. All right, we can get rid of this because that's not doing anything. I think we can get rid of this. So I want to see if this works. If I just say, hey, set this element to be the same as the value of this other element. Obviously, we're not going to keep doing this long term because I want to do some manipulations. Not sure if you've checked it out, but another reference or source for JavaScript is *****. That is ungoogleable for me. Oh, actually, you know what? That might have been what's the word I'm looking for? Like redacted? Censored. The URL might have been censored. So potentially try typing it out with spaces in between the dots or something so it doesn't register as URL. Because I'm guessing it's not called ***** or asterisk. Okay. And I actually do not need this, so that can just all leave. Yeah. Also, something that I've noticed is that this does not use indentation except within the scope of the function. Rather than indenting like for every element. It's just a thing that I noticed. ECMA International. Oh, let me check that out. Actually, No, I'm not going to get sidetracked. ECMA, International. I'm going to add that to my list of things to look into later. Thank you. I will definitely check that out. We'll do that on stream. I have code brain left. I want to do coding. Okay, so now if I open my preview and I put some stuff in here, just random text, okay, it prints exactly the same thing out. And if I add other text, it does exactly the same thing. Okay, great. Big ol' checkaroony, we done the first thing. And my worry about it being very hard and us having to commit to a front end looks like it was not the case, and the JavaScript just has like a built-in little text box that you put stuff into, which is great because I would prefer not to write that myself. Great, easy peasy. So, also I hate this horizontal rule. I really don't like it. So now that should be gone. Fabulous. Why don't I like it? I have no strong opinion. Also, I think this might just be the preview, but this font and this font are slightly different, as is the R in return results here. Y'all see that? Like, they're similar. It's not like a serif versus a sans serif, but they are not the same font. Yeah. Oh, error person says ECMA is the governing body for what goes into JavaScript, I think. JavaScript is just ECMA script. Interesting. All right, so I'll look into this a little bit more. Because I am interested. ECMA script. So now we're in Wikipedia, and it says that it is no longer relevant as of 2021. It is a JavaScript standard meant to ensure the interoperability of web pages across different web browsers. A JavaScript standard? Oh no. Insert that XKCD cartoon about scripts. Okay. That's the one we're learning, though. Okay, so it does. So it confirms to this script specification. So ECMA script is a superset of scripting languages that includes JavaScript as well as these other ones. And it's got a lot of history. November 1996. Adopted in 1997, so it's coming up on what? 20. Listen, subtraction is really hard, and this is why I use computers. 24? Yeah, that sounds right. Years old, so it's been around for a while. A compromise between organizations involved in standardizing the languages, especially Netscape, whew, that's a blast from the past, and Microsoft, whose disputes dominated the early standard sessions. Ike commented that ECMA script, ECMA, it must be said ECMA script, because it sort of sounds like eczema, was always an unwanted trade name that sounds like a skin disease. It's been formalized through operational semantics by work at Stanford University and the Department of Computing, Imperial College London, for security analysis and standardization. Okay, very helpful. 24, thank you. Arithmetic is not my strong suit, nor is spelling. Two things that I did extremely bad in school. Also, the first time somebody tried to sit down and teach me long division, it went very badly, I would say, is how I would describe that experience for everybody involved. Nobody had a good time. All right. Oh, also it says right here that it's 24 years old. Okay, fabulous. So that is very helpful. That's the governing body. Patatu says, wow, you study history. Computing history is very important to know. The governing body that sets standardizations. Ooh, some of those letters are right. For scripting languages. Client-side scripting languages specifically, was it? Client-side scripting on the World Wide Web. Yep, if you go. For client-side scripting languages, including JavaScript. All right. But it also, JavaScript has a lot of siblings that I didn't know about. So, V8. Ooh, we learned about something yesterday that runs on V8. I don't remember what it was, but it was something, presumably Chromium. It might have been this little browser thing that we're using here to preview stuff. Google AppScript, I think I've heard about. Actually, I think I know a developer advocate who works on AppScript. Okay. Oh, it's been a while since I've had to do anything in Perl. Okay. Coming from another language, you may prefer Typescript. It's a strongly typed superset of JavaScript. Yeah, we learned a little bit about that yesterday. I don't have, honestly, I'm fine with duck typing. I understand why strongly typed languages have their benefits. I don't have like a problem not using typing. That was just like a personal preference. I guess I need to restudy since I skipped them. No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. Okay. Helpful. Sorry, I was just going to say the history of computing stuff is really important and helps you. I think it's really important because I love sociology of science and like professions. And in another life, I'm probably a sociologist of science. But it really helps you understand the relationships between things and like why things are the way they are. And like if I'm trying to remember something that is on the surface arbitrary to me, often I will forget it. If I'm trying to remember something and I understand the process by which it arose, then I will usually remember it. So now I'm probably going to remember something about ECMA. And because of that like weird eczema thing that person talked about, I'll probably remember like something about eczema. Yeah. And I've spilled coffee on myself. Error person says, with HTML, JavaScript, CSS, some things will have slightly different default stylings. Many people use files specifically to reset all the stylings to a standardized default so they don't have to worry about missing something. Ah, interesting. Interesting. I'm probably not going to do that. Yeah. So now that we've got text in and text out, what I'm gonna do is gonna start doing some string manipulation, which is what I promised, and we absolutely have time. So if you are joining for the first time, this project, what I want to do, it's actually in here. I want a web page, and I may or may not host it anywhere. Like I just want the code for it, basically, where a user can enter text and have it anonymized. So it's not going to be full anonymization or anything. Full text anonymization is an extremely difficult problem. But I want to remove proper names and like redact them, and also make pronouns like less identifiable. Like basically, I want to change all pronouns to the third person plural so that it's not like clear. From the text, things like gender and number information. Although grammatical gender and number information, let's put it that way. So that's the plan. And the first thing I wanted to do is just do some like basic string manipulation. I think we talked about doing everything to lowercase. So I think what I'm going to do, I don't need this right now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable. So let's see if I can remember how to do this off the top of my head. So first I have to declare it as a variable, and then I have to give it a name, and the name that I'm going to give it is textin. I don't know if snake case is also I'm pretty sure this was the assignment operator. I don't know if snake case is one of those like unforgivable sins in JavaScript, but we'll find out. And then I'm going to get the value of this, right? And then the output is going to be text in. Okay, so what I've done here is instead of just taking the raw value from this element, go down. So instead of taking just the raw value for this element and immediately passing it, changing something in my HTML document using the inner HTML, instead I am assigning this to a variable and then using that variable for assignment. And it looks like white space is basically arbitrary, so I'm just going to add some white space. And now if I reopen this, I should see exactly the same results. Fabulous. Okay, so that's what I was looking for. And I would love to use the key shortcuts, but for some reason they're not working for me. When I try them, I get like a little error that says like, these are bad shortcuts, they don't work. So, string manipulation, let's look up that. JavaScript basic string manipulation. So something I've been thinking about a lot is what things seem like they should be easy but are actually very difficult. So things like, you know, video and audio, and what things seem like they should be easy and actually are pretty easy, like string manipulation. Basically, if it is an enormous pain in the butt to do string manipulation with JavaScript, I'm going to be one, upset, and B, probably will not continue using this tool in the future. It's a big reason why I didn't really get into Julia when I used it the first time, was because Julia had, like, the main thing was that it only really had ASCII support, but also like the string manipulation methods were like, eh. And I understand that they have gotten better since then, but I also haven't looked into it a lot. All right, taboo. String methods help you work with strings. Good. I would hope that they do. You just use text in lowercase with parentheses. Good. Okay, that is actually what I would expect it to be. Primitive values cannot have properties or methods because they are not objects, but methods and properties are also available to primitive values because JavaScript treats primitive values as objects when executing methods and properties. Okay, so I can't give this like a property like the language that it's in, but I could put it in an object and then give that object the property of being in a specific language, is what I'm getting from that. All right. The length property returns the length of the string, dot length. Okay, so it looks like maybe the parentheses there are optional. Find a string in a string. Index of returns the index of the first occurrence. Okay. JavaScript counts positions from 0. That feels pretty familiar, although if you have not heard my rant, counting things from 0 is not what humans do in literally any other context. And I understand why it is helpful in a computer science context, but it is unintuitive and hard to teach, and therefore I don't like it. The last index of returns the index of the last occurrence. Both index of and last index of return -1 if the text is not found. Okay. So this should return -1. Yep, sure did. Both methods accept a second parameter as the starting position for the search. Okay. The last index of method search backwards from the end to the beginning. If the second parameter is 15 and the search position starts at 15 and then searches to the beginning of the string. Okay. Searching for a string in a string. The search method searches a string for a specified value and returns the position of the match. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, that's exactly the same thing as index of with a different name. They are not equal. There are differences. The search method cannot take a second start position argument. The index of method cannot take powerful search values, regular expressions. So it can only take raw text. Can it only take ASCII text? Okay, and I'm guessing that index of is faster if they're not parsing the regular expressions. Maybe that's why they have both of them. Why do both of these things exist? They're clearly doing different things under the hood and just have similar service forms. Three types of declaration: variable, constants, and let. Variable is just generic, constant is for unchangeable, and let is for changeable. Variable has global scope. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you, air person. Okay. So, and for extracting, slice, substring, and then substring. So this one takes the start and end indexes, and this one takes the start index and the length. And the length you can get using the length method. Don't like that. Don't like those two almost identical things that are still crucially different. Extracts a part of the string. All right. Slice 7 to 13, so starting 7, so the 8th character, to the 14th character, because you're starting from 0. Yeah, see, if you have to remind students of things multiple times with like big, bold, highlighted text in beginner learning materials, because students keep getting it wrong, maybe the thing is unintuitive and hard to learn. Maybe, perchance. Try slice first. Okay. And this is from the end. Okay, yep, as I would expect. And then counting for the end. Negative positions do not work in Internet Explorer 8 or earlier. Cool. Cool. Fun. That's not fun. Sorry, I imagine that this has caused someone hours and hours of frustration and confusion. Okay. Substring is similar to slice. The difference is that substring cannot accept negative indexes, so it can't go. One of this is from Microsoft and one of this is from Netscape, and they never came to terms over it, so they just added both of them to the standard. Ooh, I can taste it. I can taste the arguments in the air from, like, conventions past. Ugh. Potato says, not gonna lie, I hate negative positions. Yeah, I can see that. Yes, and I'm guessing that somebody at Microsoft agreed with you back in the day, which is why Internet Explorer didn't support them. Yeah. Airperson says, I very strongly prefer Python to JavaScript, but unfortunately Python isn't a front-end language. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can do front-end stuff with it, but it always feels like a little bit hacky. Okay. Substr is similar to slice, so the second parameter specifies the length of the extracted part. Makes sense. If you omit the second parameter, slice will slice out the rest of the string. Substr will slice out the rest of the string. 7, so from the 8th character to the end. If the first parameter is negative, the position counts from the end of the string. So it starts from the end of the string coming in, and then it goes back to the end of the string. Instead of it's being like, okay, cool. Replacing string content. The replace method replaces a specified value with another value in a string. All right. By default, it is case sensitive. Writing Microsoft uppercase will not work. To replace case insensitive, use a regular expression with /I flag insensitive. Okay. Note that regular expressions are written without quotes. Okay. So regular expressions aren't strings. To replace all matches, use a regular expression with a /G flag global match. You will learn a lot more about regular expressions in the chapter on regular expressions. To uppercase, to lowercase. Okay, so let's just try single string manipulation. I'm getting the intuition that there were at one time multiple competing standards, and then there was like a standardization effort, and different organizations had invested a lot into each of these competing standards, so they were all added. I'm also getting the sense that like there's a lot of code smell in JavaScript that I don't know about, depending on sort of like what your history is with the language and where you learn stuff. So, somebody said something about variables, whether or not they were mutable. me see if I can screw it. Constant is unchangeable. Okay, so they are mutable. So I could do something like, do I need to declare it again? All right, I'm just going to try something. Text in equals text in, what was it, 2 lowercase. All right, so if I do that, ooh. Okay, fabulous. So I can just reassign the variable without having to redeclare it. Do I even need to declare it in the first place? What if I get rid of this? What happens then? Okay, so that feels optional, but I'm gonna do it anyway because all of the examples do it, and I don't want to be like the one person who has weird looking JavaScript. Okay, so we don't need to redeclare it. What was it? Or was it? I'm trying to add comments, and I don't think this is right. I think I did it wrong. I remember that line comments were comment? Or was it 2? I bet it was 2. Yeah? Nope, it wasn't. Oh, they go the other direction. Sorry. I have an example right here that I was looking at, and I got the direction of them wrong. Okay, great. Is that right? It doesn't look right. Manipulation. Okay. Cool. And I seem to have lost some of this chat, so let me double check. Potato says, I don't like that spaces in Python matter. Yeah, fair enough. Wait until you get to the modern stuff where some browsers implement it and some don't, and you have to write specific case for each one to prevent everything from breaking. Yeah, I definitely have heard that browser support is non-trivial. Last time I checked, grid and subgrid weren't all implemented, and you still had to support old browsers that didn't have anything like it. Ooh. The link to W3 schools. Oh yeah, for sure. I'll pop that in here. I think I can send things. Not preferable for not declaring it. Okay, so that is the standard. Don't use W3 schools if you can use something like Mozilla. They have a lot of outdated information. Okay, and then was this for comments? I don't think so. I think that just broke the JavaScript. You probably weren't saying to use that for comments. And then if I try some more stuff. All right, fabulous. So we've done the first 2 things. And I guess we should try using Mozilla instead. Let me see if I can find that. Mozilla JavaScript string manipulation. So remember, like, I don't know, 15 minutes ago when I was like, well, I sure hope string manipulation is easy and straightforward, because it feels like one of those things that should be. Still feels like one of those things that should be. But I think so far so good. I think what we're going to end up doing probably is starting with some regular expressions. And I'm going to add a little block of text up here that just sort of describes what this does. So folks aren't super confused. Little paragraph. I'm going to pop it in here. So I think the first thing that would make sense is to replace pronouns. I think that's going to be the easiest thing. This, I don't know. I'm going to call it an app. I don't know that it technically counts as an app here, but it's got like some app properties. Error person says you should read about hoisting before you get in too far into the confusion of declarations. Hoisting. All right, I will add that to my learning stuff. Because I do have, as you can see, some other stuff that I want to look up as well. This app will replace all pronouns with third person plural. E.g. he, they. And I do want to make it clear that it only works in this. And I think what I really want to quickly do, Potato says, hoisting is my nightmare. I don't know what hoisting is. Do I want to know? I do want to know. Thank you for letting me know about stuff that I should look into. Let's see. All right, so we're in the Mozilla Web Docs. I don't know what MDN stands for. Probably Mozilla Developer Network, maybe. Creating strings. I am really interested in replacing, okay, Unicode code points, fabulous. Long literal strings, fabulous. Potato says, you must know. Airperson says, you definitely want to know, but you may not want to after. This feels like a language-specific hazing ritual. I am not saying that you are hazing me. I am saying that this, I'm nervous, but it sounds like it's important, so thank you for letting me know. What I'm really looking for is regular expressions. Runs an iterator of all the regular expressions matches. Local compare, last index. Is there like a replace one? Oh wait, use to replace instances of search for using replace with. Search for may be a string or regular expression, and replace with may be a string or function. All right, so let's try this. Do I need to say prototype? Who knows? We'll find out. It has to do with how JavaScript processes things. All right. So that feels a little bit like, you know, SQL execution, where like it looks on the surface like it is all in one order, but the way that it is actually executed is in a completely different order. All right. So let's try this. So this is the name of my thing. Prototype. I mean, it's getting syntax highlighting, so it seems like okay. And I'm just gonna do, what was it? I'm trying to remember. Sorry. I'm trying to remember what it was to be case insensitive, and I think it was that. Oh, wait. Sorry, I want to have space before and after it. Or like the end of a word. Let me see. JavaScript built in regex S. Special character. JavaScript script string base regex JavaScript. There we go. Let's take a peek at this. Pop it back over. For an interjection, literal notation, constructor notation. Yeah, all right. Fabulous. Literal notation. Cool. So I'm looking for the special characters and also how to do them. There we go. /s. That's what I'm looking for. So it is gonna be /s. So that, I believe, matches a word boundary. So I should be able to Let's see if this works. So, sorry, what this regular expression should do is it should find any instance of word boundary, HE, word boundary, case insensitive, and replace it with they. So if I start my little doodly loop here and I say, he's in there with he, I realize that's a little bit weird. So this should be they's in there with they. Didn't work. Okay. Maybe I don't need the prototype text? Oh, also this he should not be changed. Okay, that didn't work. That did not work. All right. Well, noted. Dot replace. That's what I'm doing, right? Dot replace. To indicate the results, the corresponding match parentheses. All right. First match. All right. Note the order of the patterns in the regular expression matter. Yes, and imagine they do. You put she, isn't it, that extra S? So this S, because it has the slash in front of it, is being interpreted as a special character, I hope. Let's see if that works. No, that doesn't work either. So, yeah, that shouldn't be what the problem is. I think the problem is that, like, nothing is changing, right? Maybe I don't need to reassign it. Maybe I just need to, like, run the method. Did I copy and paste that? Sure did not. What's up? What's happening? Why does it not work? Okay, I'm just gonna copy this because I'm not getting any errors. So I think it is being recognized as like reasonable JavaScript. Yeah, and that's what I did last time, right? Is that I took maybe it's the I. Maybe it's the case insensitive thing. Maybe that's not actually helpful. Let me actually do that using the regular expression instead of trying to use this thing that I just learned about that maybe doesn't work with replace, because apparently not all the things work with everything, you know? So that should match upper or lowercase h. Get rid of that. He's in there with he. All right, well now we get nothing, so that's also something that's happening. The whole string needs to be sliced so you can find the characters instead, I think. Well, let's look in here, because I thought I could just replace stuff, right? Replace. Replace matches in a given string with a new substring. The replace method replaces some or all of the matches of this pattern in a string with a replacement. The result of the replacement is a new string. Okay, the replacement can be a string or a function to be called with each match. Football dot replace new regular expression 1 foo string dot replace. Okay, so my syntax I think is right. A string is the target of the replacement. A string that replaces the string. So it's string and then substring, right? A number of special replacement patterns are supported. See specifying a string as a parameter section. A function to be invoked to create a new substring. The arguments applied to this function are described in specifying The arguments applied to this function are described in the specifying a function as a parameter section, the string prototype replace page. A new string description. This method is called internally in string prototype replace if the pattern argument is a regular expressions object. For example, the following two examples return the same result. ABC dot replace A with A. This method exists for customizing replace behavior in regular expression subclass. If the pattern argument is not a regular expression object, Spring blah 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 doesn't call this method, nor does it create a regular expressions object. So this is as I expect it, right? I removed the prototype, so I think that maybe that was what it was doing. Let's see. Okay, that one worked. Okay, I thought that was word boundary. I think it's space. Okay, so it's me and my regular expressions. What is the problem? And not, in fact, the JavaScript. Okay, that is helpful. So what is happening here? First of all, let me do a capture group instead. I think that's going to help. So now it should... The middle one should change. Yeah, okay, fabulous. So the reason that it was not working before was that I had he at the beginning of the sentence, and this is matching one or more spaces, not a word boundary. So the problem is in my my regular expressions, JavaScript match word boundary. And it should in fact be /B. So this should fix my problem. So it shouldn't any longer be looking for a space character, white space character. It should now be looking for the boundary of a word, which should also match the beginning of a line, the end of a line, or any piece of punctuation. So he, that still won't work. There we go. So he dot he keys. So all of these should now be changed to they. Great, fabulous. Some of them so now this one that happened at the very beginning did match. This one didn't, this one didn't, this one didn't. So it seems like the punctuation is not being considered part of the word boundary. Let's look into this. Could you make a const that's a regex and then use that const in the function? Hold up. Potato says use replace all. That does seem like a likely culprit, doesn't it? Nothing's happening. Maybe replace all is not what I should be doing. Maybe there's like an argument for replace. Let's see. Replace all method returns a new string. Replace all regex ferret. REPLACEALL, and that's definitely the string. I done did something. Let's try this. That shouldn't work. This one should. So the first and the third should be replaced, but the middle one shouldn't be. Instead, nothing's happening. Okay. So replace all isn't working now. And you have to set the global flag, otherwise it will throw a type error. I see no errors. Have to escape the punctuation probably. because it was working before. So if I, here, copy this. So if I just go back to replace from replace all, right? And then do the exact same thing. The first one's done. The second one's done, and the third one is never going to be because we're not only matching lowercase e here, but I am going to add the uppercase e as well. So replace all is definitely what it's called. Is this where we were supposed to put just like a little G after it? Was that part of the thing? Yeah, there we go. Okay. We're getting there. So this is all regular expression, pretty bog standard. This flag is JavaScript specific, and that means global. And you need to do that if you do replace all. Why? That's what it says in the docs. Voila. Okay. So it's just like JavaScript specific stuff. Good to know. Regular expression with a or literal with a global flag. Without it, replace all must be called with a global regular expression. So, what's a global regular expression? It must be global. This won't work. This will work. Okay, I also got no errors, which was super helpful and I liked a lot. Also doesn't work in Internet Explorer or Samsung Internet. Cool. Very cool. If you're using Internet Explorer or Samsung Internet, I'm so sorry. It's just not going to work for you. Cool. A polyfill is available in core.js. Isn't that what you put in like stuffed animals? Yeah, it sure is. Sorry, so this is what I mean by polyfill. It's like the fluffy stuffing you put inside stuffed animals. But in web development, a polyfill code implements a feature on web browsers that do not support the feature. Most often it refers to a JavaScript library that implements an HTML5 or CSS web standard, either an established standard supported by some browsers on older browsers or a proposed standard. Cool. Yeah. Potato says, so something I plus something G equals something IG? I don't know. Isn't that what you put in dentures? Maybe. I don't know. I do not know a lot about dentistry. Not an area I've... Actually, I say that. I know a lot about the anthropology of dentistry. Or, like, the anthropology of, like, dentition and teeth. And it's really interesting. You can sort of, like, tell whether a skull, like other things aside, but you can tell whether a skull was from, you know, the upper middle class in England before or after the Tudor period by the amount of decay due to sugar consumptions. The Tudors went ham on sugar. They ate a lot of sugar, like to the point where, like, I know Americans like stereotypically eat a lot of sugar. Not to that degree. Anyway. Also, it was all produced with slave labor, which... Yep. Anyway, that's been Anthropology Break with your host, Rachel. I really like anthropology. If I were just going to go back to school for anything, it would probably be like anthropology of food and domestic cookery. So, that works. We've had a pretty good time so far. We've gotten not only some way to get text in and then print the text out, but also some basic string manipulation, some basic regular expressions. Replace all needs the global flag and won't work on IE or Samsung Internet? Is that what it was called? Samsung Internet? Something like that? Anyway. Yeah. didn't they develop cranial deformations like elongated jaws, potentially severe underbites? Yeah, not something I know as much about. Also, like, I don't know, the sort of jaw structure and size has a lot to do with like how much you had to chew as a kid, like, and like how rough your food was, basically. So jaw sizes have been slowly decreasing over time because our food is, you know, cooked and stuff. Interesting aside. So I think that's a pretty good stopping place on the coding portion, but we had some things to look up. So that's looking good. And I'm just going to quickly add our day 3. Which is going to be the 16th. Same time if you want to join again. And what we're going to do is we're going to do pronoun replacement. Is going to be our big thing. And then if we have anything to look up, I'll add that. And we're going to lookup table, maybe something like that, because we could definitely do regular expressions for the whole thing, but I think that is a fool's errand. And there's a lot of pronouns, and it would be much easier if they were just in a table and I could look them up, and that would be my preference. So that's what I'm going to try and do. Easier to include more pronouns. N-O-U-N-S. Nope, no D. There we go. Typing is hard. So things to look up. WASM, which I think stands for something like assembly. Right. Webassembly. Supported in 4 major browser engines. I believe that's Edge, Safari, Chrome, and Firefox. This is Firefox. A binary instruction format for a stack-based virtual machine. Don't know what stack-based means. Wasm is designed as a portable compilation target for programming languages, enabling deployment on the web for client and server applications. Stack machine is designed to be encoded in a size and load time efficient binary format. What's a stack machine? That was not helpful. This just says execution, and then it has a list of stuff. Conventions, prose notation, formal notation, runtime structures, instances, numerics, instructions, modules. Okay, helpful. Not entirely sure what all this means. What's a stack machine? This all looks very low level. I am guessing that I don't actually have to care about all of this. Come on over here, Wikipedia. Get in there. There we go. Stack machine and automata theory. See pushdown automaton. That sounds vaguely familiar. That's starting to like ring some distant bells in the, I don't know, veils of my memory. A stack machine is a computer processor or virtual machine in which an arithmetic logic unit's primary interaction is to and push to and primary interaction is to and from. Oh, primary interaction is to and from a push-down stack instead of processor registers. In the case of a hardware processor, a hardware stack is used. The use of a stack significantly reduces the required number of processor registers. A stack machine is a Turing-complete computer. Like any other machine, it uses an operating system to control its processes.
For example, Burroughs B5000 was a stack machine, and its instruction set defined a relatively high-level programming language. Similarly, the interpreter for Adobe's PostScript print formatting language is a virtual stack machine. Okay. So it puts things on and takes things off from a stack, and that's what it does? This sounds extremely low level. I don't think that this is actually going to be that helpful for us. I guess that makes sense, because it does have, like, assembly in the name. Seems super low level implementation of web stuff. Maybe not super relevant to me right now. Well, I looked it up. Peter says, Wikipedia garden pass sentence. Yeah, I garden passed hard. I was looking for, I'm looking for the sentence. I was looking for this to be like the first half of oh my god, what do you call it? Not imperative. The form of a verb that is non-conjugated, like être in French. Unconjugated form of the verb. What's it called? I don't remember. My mind is a bowl of oatmeal. Infinitive. Jiminy cricket. I was looking for that to be the first half of an infinitive, and it sure wasn't. Yeah. Doesn't feel like it's helping. Imagination. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is not going to be super helpful for us right now. Somebody mentioned it the other day. I have looked into it, and now I've heard of it. And the other thing was hoisting. Hoisting in JavaScript. All right, we'll go to the Mozilla site over the W3 site, since apparently that one is a little bit out of date sometimes. Hoisting is a term you will not find used in any normative specification prose prior to 2015. Hoisting was thought up as a general way of thinking about how execution contexts, specifically the creation and execution phases, work in JavaScript. However, the concept can be a little confusing at first. Conceptually, for example, a strict first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this link so that I have it to refer to. It rendered. That's not what I was looking for. There we go. Also, it sounds like the person who wrote this is a little bit salty about it. Like, I don't think the person who wrote this paragraph is a big fan of hoisting. It's just the sense that I'm getting. Hoisting is related to this. Okay, so it's related to the stack machine and low-level assembly stuff. Conceptually, for example, a strict definition of hoisting suggests that variable and function declarations are physically moved to the top of your code, but this is not in fact what happens. Instead, the variable and function declarations are put into memory during the compile phase. Oh, it is compiled. That's what I was asking about that yesterday, and I didn't know the answer, and now I do. Could I have looked it up then? Yes. Did I? Nope. But stay exactly where you type them in your code. Technical example. One of the advantages of JavaScript putting function declarations into memory. One of the advantages of JavaScript putting function declarations into memory before it executes any code segment is that it allows you to use a function before you declare it in your code. For example, cat name, my cat name. Okay, so is that it allows you to use a function before you declare it in your code. This function is declared before it is used. The above code snippet is how you would expect to write the code for it to work. Now let's see what happens when we call the function before we write it. Okay, I gotcha. I was like, this is normal. This does not do the same thing that you said it did.
Okay, so here you can interact with the function before it's actually declared. Even though we call the function in our code first before the function is written, the code still works. This is because of how context execution works in JavaScript. Hoisting works well with other data types and variables. The variables can be initialized and used before they are declared. Only declarations are hoisted. JavaScript only hoists declarations, not initializations. If a variable is declared and initialized after using it, the value will be undefined. For example, okay, so this is why you were bringing up why I would want to define it and then initialize it. Okay. The example below only has initialization, no hoisting happens, so trying to read the variable results in a reference error execution. Okay, so if you have a variable, you should declare it first, and once it's declared, then it will be in memory and can be accessed at any point. But if you attempt to initialize it, if you try to use it before it's initialized but it has not been declared, then you'll get an error. That makes sense to me. Initializations using let and const are also not hoisted. Initialization throws reference error, cannot access A before initialization. Throw syntax error, missing initializer is const declaration. Okay, so only var. Okay, cool. So this would work if this said var A and this said var A. Example, only Y is hoisted, no hoisting, but since initialization also causes declaration, if not already declared, variables are available. Okay, so the reason that this works is that you don't try to interact with these variables in any way before they're initialized, because initializing it also declares it. But if I had tried to interact with A up here before it was initialized, then it wouldn't work. All right, this isn't making sense to me. It is weird to me that const and let are different than var in that way. But that makes sense. Okay. Let's rephrase that in our own words and then wrap it up because I'm starting to get a little bit tired in the brain. You can use variables above where you declare them the first time, but only if you declare them using var. Const and let won't work, and while initializing also serves as a declaration, okay, so actually there were two things. There was first was variables. Functions can be used before they're declared in the, not before, can be used above where they're declared in your code since they're loaded into memory first. And then the variables are a little bit trickier. Variables above where you declare them the first time, but only if you declare them using var. Constant let won't work, and while initializing also serves as declaration, you will only, it doesn't load the variable into memory before execution, question mark, during compilation, compiling, yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, that makes sense to me, actually. I think that sounds pretty straightforward. Now that I've read an explanation, I'm sure that at some point it will sort of bite me in the butt, but also I'm very used to code. I'm used to scripting languages that aren't compiled, so like the idea that you would talk about things out of order anyways. It's a little bit like, Rachel, don't you use Jupyter a lot? Anyway, moving on. So lots of good learning today. We learned how to get input in from a user, and it's built in. It's pretty straightforward. It's a field called input, and it will take input, and you can give it a name and do stuff with it. And the stuff that we have done with it is that we've gotten the value from that input, and then we have we did some like case fiddling around, and here we are replacing he with they wherever it occurs. We learned that replace all requires a global flag if you're going to use it with a regular expression, and also it doesn't work in Internet Explorer, but also Internet Explorer I think is deprecated by Microsoft at this point, or Samsung Internet, which might be a problem, but I would guess that the majority of Samsung Internet users are in Korea. I could be wrong on that. I don't really know. And I imagine that that's not going to have a lot of overlap with people who want to change pronouns in English language text for anonymization purposes. And I could be wrong on that. That could be a bad assumption on my part. So let's take a look at what that does. So if I say something like he's in there with he, this he should be changed. This he should not be because it is not bordered by word boundaries, and this he should be. And now it says they's in there with they. And clearly there's some problems here, like the agreement here is wrong, and the case here was wrong to begin with. So tomorrow I really want to work on maybe trying to get some sort of lookup tables so that we can do an easier process and also be able to match case a little bit better. So he, they, him, them, she, they, her, them, etc., that sort of thing. And we also learned about a bunch of different stuff. So we learned about Webassembly, which is super duper low level, and I think not super relevant, but might be something that we would look into if we found bugs that were very confusing. I learned that probably the most canonical reference for JavaScript is the Mozilla one, and that W3 might be a little bit out of date. And that Java is a type of ECMAScript, which was developed by this governing body as sort of like a compromise between Netscape and Microsoft, it sounded like, and that it has sister scripts that follow the same standards. And then hoisting, which is a newer term that whoever wrote this is a little bit upset about, I would say. I would say that they're not a fan of it. So variables declared using var can be used above their declaration, and functions can be used above their declaration because they're loaded into memory first. Yeah, all right. And then tomorrow we're gonna see if we can work on maybe some lookup tables and a little bit of fancier pronoun replacement. And then day 4, I'm gonna try and get into names a little bit more and see if I can do something with that. We might do that with like regular expressions. And then day 5, we might even see about hosting it somewhere, see if we can get that to work. I do get the impression that it's gonna be hard for people to run this because it's just going to be like raw JavaScript executing in your browser. And my understanding is that that's not the best from a security standpoint. So whether or not this is going to be especially accessible for people is one thing. Oh, actually, there is something else that I wanted to do. I want to look up, are there any JavaScript NLP packages, question mark? Has somebody already built tooling to do the thing I want to do? Because if so, then that would make my life very much easier, and I would appreciate that a lot. So we'll look into that tomorrow. We'll keep working on the pronoun replacement, keep working on this project. I feel like I'm starting to get a good understanding of how things work and sort of the general ethos of the language, and also sort of looking through the historical time depth and the different groups of people that have had a say in how this language occurs and what it does. And I get the sense that that's an area of a lot more complexity than we've run into so far. So thank you for joining. I hope this was helpful and interesting. Thanks for all the help and information, folks. I really appreciate it. And we will be back same time tomorrow for day 3. And get into a little bit more of the NLP than just writing one regular expression. So that's what we'll do tomorrow. I hope you'll join me then, and have a great day. I'll talk to you later.